What is your definition of well-being?
Inner peace, harmony.
How does spirituality fit into sex?
Hi everybody, welcome to the Queer Network. This is Queer Conversations, and I am so excited for today's Queer Conversation because it is all about a shift that we are about to make here on the Queer Network, and I'm going to let Eddie tell you a little bit more about it.
Yes, as Justin said, we're very excited to be going in this direction that we are, and we're going to talk more about it on our Queer Talk Show on the episode this week. But for now, we are shifting focus, and we are going to concentrate more on and talk more about health and well-being from a queer perspective, and spirituality. That's going to be a big part of it. It's something that Justin and I are both passionate about, and we feel that there is a lot that we can share and we can talk about. And there aren't a lot of people talking about it from the queer perspective. So that's what we were doing. So yes. Hi. And today on our first queer conversation with that focus, who do we have, Justin?
Well, we feel like it's a very natural progression from a queer conversation we've had previous with Tracy Hutchinson, who is a life coach. It was all about sex, and all about how sex starts in the mind. And so we wanted to bring Tracy back to help us launch this new focus.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
We're excited to have you. We're excited to have you back. We just did a little intro, and everyone sort of knows where we're going and what we're about. So because this, again, our focus is on health and well-being and spirituality, I'm going to ask you and Justin a couple of questions, three specifically, to get into this. So I've often had people say, so what does spirituality mean to you? What is spirituality? So how would you guys answer that question?
Spirituality, to me, is about personal transformation and growth. It's about the collective transformation and growth of society, humanity, consciousness. It is a bringing together of science, new science, old science, and even aspects of what we may once have called religion. For me, though, spirituality is a bridging of all of those bridging of all those fields together, and it creates this amazing homogeneous sphere of new information. Did anybody understand that? Because I didn't.
Well, you know what? It was as complicated as spirituality can be, so it was perfect.
Yeah. Let's see how Tracy responds.
Yes.
You might not like my answer. So it's the duality. It's the knowing of spirit. It's acknowledging spirit. Without religion, without the spirit that lives within you, that is which you are one with.
Yes.
So when you say spirituality, it is oneness. It's, it was like your answer with the whole science and old science and new. That's like, we start to exclude people when we get too defined, because it's such inclusion and it's oneness.
Totally.
That it is independent of, religions were created in such that you had to go through the priest or the pastor or whoever, You know, you have to go through that person to come to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not of that thinking.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that the oneness within me, and you know, that there's no place I need to go except within.
Yeah.
To be spiritual.
Yeah. To me, it's just a belief in a higher power. And that's kind of the not the woo-woo, but that's kind of that explanation. And the other is what I've read and what I also believe is just being the best possible person that you can be in this lifetime. And so, again, we cross a whole gamut here of what you said, Tracy, and what Justin said, what I said. And so I think this is something that we will probably ask every guest that comes on our show, because it's fascinating to know what people feel about that. So
it's wonderful to say higher power, but many people believe that they are separate from their higher power. They are below their higher power. They are inferior to the higher power. So when you say there's a higher power, the spirituality part, I believe, is that knowing the connection, the oneness of you and the higher power that cannot be separated.
Right. Spirituality to me was part of my transition away from religion. It was a word I remember using early on as a way to say, I'm not a Christian anymore. I have some Christian traditions that I still follow, but spirituality is much more how I explain that I believe in something, in a greater power that we are all one with.
And a lot of people use spirituality as a anchor to say what they're not. Like, yeah, when you ask somebody, I think, Eddie, you said something about your date saying, well, I'm not religious.
Right.
So if we've got to pigeonhole people and they don't want to choose religious, then they're going to probably pick spiritual.
Totally.
I'm going to come back to spirituality in relation to something else. But before that, and Tracy, you answer this one first. What is your definition of well-being?
Inner peace, harmony. I believe we've got to stay with the simplest answer, because usually the simplest answer is truth.
Yes.
How did I achieve inner peace? A lot of study, a lot of reflection, a lot of internal work, a lot of gathering knowledge, understanding.
I couldn't even tell you really what that is, because I have not experienced truly well-being. And I feel that I am on that road to doing that. And again, we're gonna talk about this. This is why it's so exciting, as on the Queer Network. We're gonna talk about our stories and other people's stories, but that's how I feel about it. Sorry, Justin, what do you have to say?
I have had a life coach for almost a decade now, and I still, the definition of well-being, the first thing that came to my mind was beingness, the beingness of being well. And what that has meant for me is that we live in a doing society. Are you doing well? And to be well is beyond the things that we do in our lives, the things that we accomplish day to day. And can you be well despite all of those things that are a part of being a human on this earth, a part of the emotions that we experience, the chemicals that are released in our brain, the subconscious programming that we have built into our bodies and our mind.
Okay. So this is going a little bit back to spirituality, and how does spirituality fit into sex?
I think sex can be a spiritual experience, because a part of spirituality to me is energy, because we are all energy. And when two fields of energy come together through a sexual experience, it can be coherent and aligned with intention and love making and beautiful. And it can also be incoherent and covered with a film of different intentions, and neither one is right or wrong, but they produce something different. And so I think then also a part of sex is the build of energy that then most people who have had sex know is the climax. They see as this like climax of energy, and it isn't just about that climax, it's also about the before. The foreplay is another word that has been coined as that experience, can also be a spiritual experience.
As soon as I entered transformation, I knew there was a higher purpose for sex versus using another person's body to achieve a goal. And that's where it's get really debased. And, you know, I don't know which one of you said it, but it says, well, you could, coherent and incoherent. And you said neither is wrong or right. No, but you just said they're coherent and incoherent. Mm-hmm. So what kind of expression do you want to have? Do you want to have a coherent expression or an incoherent expression? One serves you, the other one does not. The other one will have you seeking the same pleasure, the same objective the next time.
So can you can you explain to our viewers what's the difference between incoherent and coherent?
Well, incoherent is to use another person's body for the fruition or the fulfillment of a goal. So you're using their body in a way to stimulate yourself. Coherence is when the energies are complementary, that one is not trying to achieve a specific goal, either to get off themselves or get their partner off. And the other thing is too, is that that's what happens with incoherence, with the hooking up and the fuck buddies and everything else. It's just so incoherent. It is literally using another person for your own pleasure. And yes, they're doing the same thing and you're being used for their pleasure. So that's incoherent energy. It is even energy that depletes you of energy. Mm-hmm. And you might say, oh, it was just a really aerobic, you know, sexual encounter and I'm tired. And not necessarily, you know, because your aura and the energy that your energy field that is around the physical body, the energies that are stuck or flowing through the chakras could be hampered. So so I mean it's right in the words, incoherent and coherent.
Okay, so where does the spirituality fit in here then?
Coherence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oneness. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That mutual respect, that knowing that, I mean, you know, depending on what, you know, sex, most likely there's an entering into another physical being body. Yep. That should be held in such reverence.
Right. And
it has not been.
It hasn't been. And even to the degree of just two beings being beside each other, sleeping in the same bed. This also plays into what the energy you're experiencing, and the like that Tracy, the alignment of your chakras, the flow of your chakras. And so it's not even just physical penetration, it is the entanglement of our
entangling the energies. Exactly. Before in coherence, you remember, oh, I like to get off this way, or I like him or her to do this to me. And when you're in that coherence, you experience a new touch, and like, oh, never mind about that old thing. Oh, no, this is my thing here. Oh, I like this thing now, right? All of a sudden it shifts, and it's so subtle.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you allow yourself to experience the now of that moment, and be with that being that will touch you differently than perhaps a previous lover. And if we can let go of our preconceived notions of what, oh, this is the way I like it, this and that, please can you do that to my feet, or please can you do that to right behind my ear, right here. Well, their tongue might not be doing what somebody else's tongue was doing. And again, it is the energy of that touch that allows that moment to be, I think,
and the other thing,
a spiritual experience.
And the other thing too is that can the goal be intimacy, and you have this whole encounter with never touching each other's crotches, no penetration? I mean, there is a place there that is so fulfilling because it is coherent. Yeah. Because we have, I often ask people to think about what a tiger does. A tiger, what a tiger does. And when the first image that most people, when I talk about a tiger, is they're thinking of, well, I've heard growl, and first of all, tigers don't growl. They either roof or roar, but most of the answers I got, if I took a survey, it was always about them attacking a weaker creature for the purpose of eating it. And we have stopped. We've given behaviors and assigned behaviors to creatures that limits them drastically. I mean, just, it's crazy. The tiger eats about maybe once a week. I mean, there's times where it's unsuccessful. Its hunt is unsuccessful. And where do they go for water? And what is their habits, and how do they sleep, and how do they help the forest thrive, and various other things. And the same thing has happened with the queer community, and that has all been created by the non-queer community. That the heterosexuals have basically said, when they think of a gay person, they think of how they have sex, and that becomes repulsive. You're not thinking about, they don't think, oh, I wonder how a gay person gets their kids off to school.
Right.
I wonder how a gay person, packs for a long weekend. Oh, I wonder, it's like, so what's happened is you've allowed a population that is not you to define you. And so then when you come out, I've heard of gay men making up for lost time. I'm going to have tons and tons of sex, right? But this wasn't your creation. This wasn't your definition, right? And so we want to think of, how do two men love each other? How do they express affection? How boxers or briefs. I mean, it gets so limited.
Right.
And it's not even the heterosexual community that thinks that about us. It's our own community.
Well, no, they started it.
They
established it because
Pardon?
of the so-called sin and the wrongdoing of it. Because that's how you guys got together. so the heterosexual the community hasn't even really, I mean, some parts of it we know have the higher beings and higher and think the higher, but yes, and then that's what I'm saying is you got to live into that.
But
So,
what I'm saying is a lot of us perpetuate it because that's what we talk about.
Absolutely.
We talk about how was the sex, you know?
Right.
We
Absolutely,
perpetuate
because you didn't create it.
Right. But we've taken it as a way to take back our freedom. This is the soundbite that we use to justify this action. And just to like bring it full circle for anybody who's listening, that the tiger does so much more than kill its prey. It spends so little of its overall bandwidth of time being a killer that's going to kill another animal. Just like as queer, gay men, anybody a part of the queer community, how we have sex is just such a small portion of our lives as a whole. And so, but it's a part of what we want to do with the Queer Conversations and the new direction with the Queer Network is showing the queer community that has fed into this stereotype that all we think about, all we talk about, all we are is how we have sex.
How they do it.
And can I yeah. And I just want to, because you know, Justin, you mentioned many times how, our network is not just about, us gay people. And when it comes to sex, I just want to bring up this, thing that happened when, Justin and I, we did a round table kind of conversation. It was called Queer Talk, and we did it with some trans people.
I saw it.
You saw it? And, what you don't know is the background of that is when we were interviewing the people to be in that discussion, and I was very naive to the whole trans world, and like I thought, many people want to know certain answers to things, and it's about sex. How do they do it, and do you still have your penis, or do you have a vagina, or whatever? But it's because of how we've been wired. And yet, listening to these people, when we actually did the shooting, and Justin knows this, and I'm going to get emotional about it now, is hearing their stories and hearing, that they're not like just about the transition and their body parts and all this. And I remember Justin was the moderator of this, and we were coming to the end. It was like, okay, any other questions? And one of the guys said, Eddie, you had said in the interviews that you wanted to ask a question, know the answer to this question. And I started to cry. And I said, you know what? I don't need to know. I don't need to know. It doesn't matter, because
we reduce them. We reduce them down to a physical act.
I want people to come to that same conclusion that I came to by talking to a gay person, or talking to a trans person, or talking to a non-bi, whoever, to see that they're more than what their identity is, or they're more than what their physical appearance
How
is.
they do it.
That was my point.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We're all on the same page here. Yeah.
I mean, I got that, and I'm a gay person, and
exactly. And you know how many of your viewers right now are going, oh, yeah.
That's the point.
I don't want to be reduced like that, and I don't want to reduce anybody else anymore. I mean, there's some breakthroughs happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this conversation, because of your bravery and your courage to have this kind of conversation.
And you know what? If you're having that moment now, to all those who are watching, please put it in the comments section below, because we would love to hear from you and how this conversation has perhaps changed the way you see wanting to know those things about just the physical.
You know, I think I would like sort of always to maybe say a little sort of what we've gotten from this. And I will start by saying that I think that if we all strive to be more open and to be open to knowledge and to understanding, which will lead us to be more loving and more connected with people, that to me would be a beautiful thing.
What I love about this conversation is that it is different, that it's not perfect and polished and has all the right sound bites. It is a conversation about, we talked about spirituality, we talked about the body, the mind, energy, we talked about a little bit of religion and some of our old programming. And what I want people to take away from this show is that it will prompt them to ask some of the same questions with the people that they're conversing with, dialoguing with. We live in a moment of COVID-19 where we are not as obviously connected as we used to be. And what I want you to know is that our energy is always connecting us, because like Tracy said, we are 0.00000% physical.
One physical, exactly.
And so just remember that, because we connect on an energetic level.
We are mostly non-physical energy, which means that when we are on Zoom, we are as connected as if we were in the same room.
Exactly.
And only our thinking makes us separate.
Yeah.
Only our idea that you are separate, even though you're in New York and you're in Toronto and I'm in California, you know, that's perception.
Yeah.
I can feel that connection right now. It hasn't taken anything away. COVID can't take anything away from me.
Uh-huh.
Fuck you, COVID.
Yeah. So what I would say is I'd like to end with gratitude. I'd like to thank you both, Justin and Eddie. I am internally grateful that I can fulfill my purpose and I can express the results of all the work I've done over 2 decades and more in this arena, with this venue, and sharing your viewers with me.
Well, let me say that, I mean, this is exactly, whew, this is exactly why we want to do this, because we want, you know, not only to express ourselves, but to have people like you on that can share their work and their teachings and their wisdom and their lessons and whatever, and just to share with everyone out there. And, you know, particularly we're focused on the queer community, but it is for everyone.
And we're thankful for everybody who's tuned in to listen and watch and is open to all this new information. So come back, because there is so much more queer conversation had.
As we like to say, Tracy?
Keep it queer.
Yes.